Hello, everyone. Welcome to the 11th episode of the AI Healthcare Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan Reed, and today we are joined with my friend, Joanna Deni, who is a PhD student in biomedical sciences at the University of Paris and a healthcare AI research specialist at Intelligence Ventures. Thank you for being here, Joanna.
Thank you for inviting me, Dylan.
And could you give an overview of FemTech and how it will revolutionize female health?
Absolutely. So, femtech is a term that is describing a specific healthcare industry that focuses on technologies and innovations around women's health. For example, this could be services or products that have to do with fertility and contraception, or menopause and maternal health, breastfeeding, but also other general health conditions that influence women disproportionately. So, for instance, osteoporosis or breast cancer. I think the term these days is expanding to encompass issues around the healthcare of the LGBTQ plus community, but was initially coined in 2016 by Ida Tin, which was the founder of Clue, which was a period tracing app. And I think it will revolutionize women's health because of two main reasons. One being the fact that women's health is a largely unexplored market, and two being the fact that demand for femtech is increasing. So if I can break this down for you, the fact that women's market is largely unexplored comes because we don't know a lot of things. So for instance, we don't know what triggers labor during childbirth. And we either didn't have the resources or we never asked. And I think now with all of these technologies that are developed in all of these different sectors of healthcare, it will become interesting to see and apply them in women's health and see what trends we can discover and what biological observations. And the fact that we don't have a lot in the market right now means that there is a lot of room for growth and not a lot of competition. So it's interesting to be there at the moment. And the second reason I think it will revolutionize women's health is because the demand for femtech is increasing. And I was reading Fortune magazine, and it was saying that Gen Zers are going to be surpassing boomers in the workforce in 2024. And I don't know about you, but being a Gen Zer myself, we value things, we value health, and we're very verbal about it. So the women that will have the capability and the resources to invest in women's health, as well as the women that will have the education and the motivation to work on these issues, is going to increase. And so we will see more need for femtech in the future. So just to summarize, I think the industry is becoming more interesting because there is so much available workforce and accessible capital at the moment.
And what has been the biggest hurdle for health VCs to embrace women-led startups in the AI, specifically the femtech space?
I think the biggest challenge when integrating AI in any healthcare sector, not just femtech, but in any of them, I think there are two main challenges. One being the need for experimental data, and I think this is the hardest one to overcome as a challenge. And the second one is um, the when we invest in a startup, we're curious about the uniqueness of the algorithm. So the challenge comes from the algorithm itself. And just to give a little bit more information, when I'm talking about the need for experimental data, healthcare as a sector is dealing with human lives. And when you're dealing with human lives, you want a lot of ways to show that this small human-made molecule is going to make a positive impact in someone's life. And this is true in science in general. We spend a lot of time, as a researcher, we spend a lot of time in the lab, a lot of money, a lot of effort, a lot of resources trying to prove that one compound is better than another. So the experimental data and the clinical trials is just one way to confirm that this choice to progress one compound over another is a good choice. And the VCs also feed from these data. They want to know that the thing they're investing in is going to do what they hope is going to do. So if it's in drug discovery, they want to see the expected phenotype in vivo or in clinical trials. And if it's in a wearable technology, they want to see the feedback of the patients or the users after wearing that technology. So I think this is the biggest challenge, and the challenge that is going to stay there because of the type of industry. And the second challenge, which comes from when we invest in AI startups, the uniqueness of the algorithm that I said, it comes from the fact that right now we're experiencing such a turbulent AI landscape that we want to see, or VCs want to see how companies are going to adapt to this landscape and what is the interoperability of a company. So what we usually advise young startups to do is to do extensive market research and have a good exit strategy, because it's not just important to have a good idea about an innovation. It's also important to go beyond your own algorithm and see what's happening in the ecosystem. How are you fitting in the ecosystem, and how is the ecosystem evolving? So I think it's more attractive at the moment to see adaptability. Um, and I think these are the two challenges that comes with AI in healthcare. For specifically women-led startups, um, I think that there are just not so many women-led startups. I've been in a lot of meetings with CEO and founders, and the gender gap is quite apparent. Apart from them not being in positions of leading, I don't think that there is a specific obstacle for them. If anything, and it's the same with any femtech startup too. If anything, I think the VCs are trying to have a diversified portfolio, so they would look favorably upon these startups, and they would invest in powerful women. After all, I think they are investing on inspiring people and creative ideas.
And kind of based on your experiences as a researcher, what challenges do you see kind of in your day to day, either academic or professional career? Do key stakeholders face when embracing AI and femtech?
I think key stakeholders, I would break them down into three: the creators of the technology or the researchers,
Mm.
then the investors, and then the consumers of the technology, which in this case would be the patient or the user. For researchers, I think, as I said before, the biggest hurdle, the biggest challenge is experimental data. When Despite the sophistication of the algorithm, when you have a prediction, it's just a hypothesis, and then you have to spend months and months validating this hypothesis. And the more experiments you do, and the different experiments you do, so if it's a protein binding, right, you need to do immunoprecipitation and binding assays and then co-localization. The more different experiments you do, and the more people that do the experiments, the more comfortable you are that this hypothesis is real, and the more comfortable the scientific community is that this is a real hypothesis. For the investors, again, the challenge comes from knowing that the company is going to adapt, the technology is adaptable in this changing landscape. But I'd like to focus more on the receivers of the technology. And I actually have a story to share. The key takeaway of the story is that challenge is accepted with a great deal of difficulty. And the story starts when I was volunteering at a New York hospital that was going over to digital. It was transitioning the patient data into a digital platform, and I was volunteering in the reception hall of the hospital. And I was just going to show the patients that were there the interface of the software and how they could use it, and how they could upload and download documents and book appointments. And all of these are very mundane tasks to you and me. But in that reception room, the people were under so much different types of trauma, and they were under like chronic pain, and they were under financial burdens, that learning this interface was really low in their priority list. And digitalizing patient data has multiple benefits. It's avoiding missing information or making mistakes, and it's making easier to share from different professionals to another. But because of all these pressure they were under, they didn't see it as a learning opportunity or something beneficial. They saw it as a chore or something in their to-do list. And I think even more recently, talking about change, ChatGPT right now is used by everybody. But a few months ago, I had to go and probe my friends and tell them, try this, see how it is. Change is not, it's not easy, and it's not, especially not easy when it comes with an under pressure. I think we can change things by being persistent and patient, and most of all, being kind. I think we're all humans at the end of the day, and it will take some of us a longer time and some of us a shorter time, but we will all adapt. We will all get there.
No, totally understand and agree with where you're coming from. And my last question is what do you think are some key concerns regarding AI regulations in FemTech?
I think in any field where we have AI integration, and again, not just femtech, but in any field, there are a lot of regulations that need to happen, that are necessary. And some of them are concerning data. So there will be like data storage and data sharing and data privacy. And I think when it comes to AI, there are two different categories of data. There are the data before the algorithm learn, and then there are the data that are produced by the algorithm. So I think for the data before the algorithm, there are a lot of regulations at place right now. When we are investigating young startups, we see how they are conforming with HIPAA regulations, and if they have cybersecurity, and if they own the data before their algorithm learns, where do they store it, and how do they share it? Is it in a cloud? Is it in a hardware? I think the data after the algorithm learns, there are fewer regulation when it comes to that. And again, an algorithm trains, and then it can make some predictions with high accuracy, right? And these predictions are not validated in any way, but they still hold some power. If an algorithm came to me and told me, after an age, I have a high risk of diabetes, even without any blood test, I would think twice or even three times about my diet. So just to say this, they do hold power even if they are predicted, when that can be linked back to the patient. And I think that there is this notion of responsible AI, and the core of this notion is that AI is here to empower patients and healthcare professionals, not create harmful results. And the experts in the field right now are trying to write down and define what AI responsibility is, and I hope they do that soon.
Awesome. And where can people find more about you, Joanna, and your work?
I think that there is a LinkedIn page that is accessible for everybody. That I post there my work, and a lot of other interesting research I do at the Intelligent Ventures.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And do not forget to hit the like button and subscribe to my channel. Episodes are also available on Spotify and Apple Podcast. And do not forget to check out my newsletter, the AI Healthcare Report, on LinkedIn. This is Dylan Reed signing off. Thank you so much for your time, Joanna.
Thank you.